For most of Earth's early history, life in the oceans was small, simple, and relatively defenseless. Then, around 541 million years ago, everything changed. This moment is known as the Cambrian explosion, a period when complex life appeared at an unprecedented speed. In geological terms, evolution did not crawl forward, it accelerated violently. Body plans, sensory organs, and hunting strategies emerged almost simultaneously, transforming the oceans into the first true battlegrounds of life. Before this era, most animals were soft-bodied and slow. There was little need for armor or speed because large predators did not yet exist. But as soon as the first hunters evolved, survival rules were rewritten. Being passive was no longer enough. Prey species either adapted quickly, developing shells, spikes, and burrowing behaviors, or they disappeared entirely. This sudden pressure created an evolutionary arms race that shaped all future marine life. What makes the Cambrian seas especially terrifying is how quickly large predators appeared. By the standards of their time, these animals were giants. Even a 1-meter-long hunter was enormous compared to its prey. These predators possessed advanced features never seen before: compound eyes capable of detecting movement, segmented limbs for grasping prey, and mouths designed not just to eat, but to crush. Vision itself became a weapon, allowing hunters to track and ambush rather than blindly consume. The rise of these early giants did more than introduce fear into the oceans. It established the first structured food chains. Apex predators sat at the top, controlling population sizes and forcing constant adaptation below them. This was the first time ecosystems became layered, competitive, and brutally efficient. In many ways, this moment created the blueprint for every ocean that followed. The Cambrian period proves a crucial truth. The age of sea monsters did not begin with dinosaurs or giant sharks. It began the moment life learned how to hunt and how to kill on a large scale. If the Cambrian seas were a jungle, Anomalocaris was its undisputed apex hunter. Living over 500 million years ago, this creature represents the moment when predation became sophisticated, deliberate, and terrifyingly effective. For decades, scientists misunderstood it. Its body parts were found separately and mistaken for different animals. Only later did the full picture emerge, revealing one of the most advanced predators of early Earth. By Cambrian standards, Anomalocaris was enormous, reaching lengths of over 1 meter. But size alone did not make it deadly. What truly set it apart was its anatomy. It possessed large, forward-facing compound eyes, each made of thousands of lenses. This gave it an unprecedented ability to detect movement and judge distance. In a world where most animals could barely sense danger, Anomalocaris could see its prey clearly and coming from far away. Its method of hunting was equally revolutionary. 2 spiked, jointed appendages extended from its head, designed to grab, restrain, and maneuver prey with precision. This was not passive feeding, it was active pursuit. At the center of its head sat a circular, tooth-lined mouth capable of crushing hard shells. Trilobites, once thought to be nearly invulnerable, suddenly became prey. Fossil evidence shows damaged and broken trilobite shells consistent with violent attacks, proving that armor alone was no longer enough to survive. The existence of Anomalocaris fundamentally changed the direction of evolution. Once a predator like this appeared, the entire ecosystem had to respond. Prey animals evolved thicker shells, sharper spines, and behaviors such as burrowing into sediment to escape detection. Speed, awareness, and defense became matters of life and death. This feedback loop, predator improves, prey adapts, predator evolves again, became the driving force of biological innovation. What makes Anomalocaris especially important is not just that it hunted, but that it ruled. It was among the first animals to sit clearly at the top of a food chain. Its presence proves that complex ecosystems with dominant predators existed far earlier than once believed. Long before dinosaurs, long before sharks, the oceans already had monsters, and they were very real. Hundreds of millions of years after the Cambrian predators established the roles of survival, the oceans entered a new and far more dangerous phase. This period is known as the Devonian, often called the Age of Fishes, but that name is misleading. These were not small, harmless fish. The Devonian seas were crowded, violent, and dominated by heavily armored and aggressively competitive animals. It was an ocean that rewarded strength, speed, and the ability to kill efficiently. By this time, vertebrates had taken control of marine ecosystems. Fish evolved jaws, one of the most important innovations in the history of life. Jaws transformed feeding into predation. Instead of filtering or scraping food, animals could now bite, tear, and crush. This single adaptation triggered a dramatic escalation in ocean warfare. Once jaws appeared, size began to matter more than ever before. The Devonian oceans became evolutionary pressure cookers. Prey species developed thick armor plates, spines, and rigid body coverings to survive attacks. In response, predators grew larger and stronger, evolving powerful heads and reinforced skulls to overcome those defenses. It was an arms race that pushed both sides toward extremes. Survival no longer depended on hiding, it depended on winning direct confrontations. What makes this era particularly significant is how organized marine ecosystems became. Food chains grew longer and more complex. Small fish fed on plankton, medium predators hunted them, and massive apex hunters dominated everything below. For the first time, the ocean truly resembled a jungle, dense with life, constant motion, and non-stop violence. Death was not an exception, it was routine. This period also marks the rise of the first truly terrifying fish predators, creatures that combined size, armor, and killing power into a single design. The Devonian did not merely produce big animals, it produced specialists in destruction. Many evolutionary experiments failed, but the few that succeeded reshaped life in the oceans forever. The age of monster fish proves that long before marine reptiles or giant sharks, the sea had already become a realm ruled by brutal giants. And from this chaos, one armored predator would rise above all others. Among all the predators that emerged during the Devonian, one stood above the rest in both power and fear: Dunkleosteus. This was not just another large fish, it was a biological weapon. Living around 358 to 382 million years ago, Dunkleosteus represented the peak of armored predatory design, a creature built entirely for domination. What made Dunkleosteus unique was its anatomy. Unlike modern predators, it did not rely on teeth. Instead, its jaws were formed from massive, sharpened bone plates that acted like self-honing blades. As the jaws closed, these plates sharpened against each other, maintaining a deadly cutting edge. This allowed it to slice through flesh and armor with terrifying efficiency. No repair, no replacement. Its weapon was built into its skull. Its bite was not only sharp, but fast. Studies suggest Dunkleosteus could open and close its jaws in fractions of a second, generating enormous force. This speed meant prey had almost no chance to react. Armor that protected other fish became useless. Thick plates, once considered the ultimate defense, were cracked open with ease. In the Devonian seas, this predator turned protection into a liability. Size amplified its dominance. Estimates suggest Dunkleosteus could reach up to 8 to 10 meters in length, making it one of the largest predators of its time. It was heavily armored at the front, protecting vital organs during attacks, while its powerful tail provided the speed needed for ambush. This balance of defense and offense made it nearly untouchable in direct combat. Fossil evidence reveals another disturbing truth. Dunkleosteus likely practiced cannibalism. Bite marks on fossils of its own species suggest that even rivals were prey. This behavior is a hallmark of apex predators, creatures so dominant that nothing is off-limits, including their own kind. The reign of Dunkleosteus reshaped marine evolution. Smaller predators were pushed out or forced into specialized niches. Prey species either evolved extreme defenses or vanished. Its eventual extinction marked the end of the Devonian's most brutal chapter, but its legacy endured. It proved that the ocean could produce predators every bit as lethal as anything that walked on land, long before dinosaurs ever existed. As armored fish and jawed predators dominated open waters, another group of killers rose in the shallows: giant eurypterids, often called sea scorpions. These were not primitive leftovers or minor predators. During the late Paleozoic era, eurypterids became some of the most successful and fearsome hunters on Earth, rivaling vertebrates in size, aggression, and dominance. Eurypterids were arthropods, related to modern scorpions and horseshoe crabs, but vastly larger. Some species exceeded 2.5 meters in length, making them the largest arthropods ever known. Their bodies were segmented and heavily armored, providing protection while maintaining flexibility. Powerful paddle-like limbs allowed them to move efficiently through shallow coastal waters, estuaries, and river mouths, environments rich in prey and competition. What made these creatures especially dangerous was their versatility. Unlike many fish that depended on speed alone, eurypterids combined multiple weapons. Large, grasping claws were used to seize prey, while spined limbs helped restrain struggling victims. Some species possessed sharp, crushing mouthparts capable of tearing through flesh and armor. They were ambush predators, striking suddenly in murky water where visibility was low and escape routes were limited. The world these sea scorpions lived in helped fuel their gigantism. Oxygen levels during parts of the Carboniferous period were significantly higher than today, allowing arthropods to grow far larger than modern physiological limits would permit. This environmental advantage turned eurypterids into apex predators, capable of hunting fish, early sharks, and even other eurypterids. In some ecosystems, they likely sat at the very top of the food chain. Their success forced other marine animals to adapt. Fish evolved stronger armor, better vision, and faster escape responses. Competition between eurypterids and early vertebrate predators intensified, turning shallow seas into constant zones of conflict. These were not peaceful coastal environments. They were lethal arenas where survival depended on timing, strength, and surprise. The decline of giant eurypterids came as oxygen levels dropped and vertebrates gained dominance. But for tens of millions of years, these sea scorpions proved a critical point in ocean history. Vertebrates were not always supreme. At one time, the seas were ruled by armored arthropod giants, predators so effective that even early sharks had reason to fear the shadows below. The greatest turning point in ocean history came after catastrophe. Around 252 million years ago, Earth experienced the Permian mass extinction, the most devastating die-off of life ever recorded. Nearly all marine species vanished, but from this devastation, a new kind of ruler emerged. With ecosystems emptied and competition erased, reptiles invaded the oceans and transformed them into realms of giant, cold-blooded predators. These marine reptiles were not descendants of earlier sea monsters. They were land animals that returned to the water, evolving rapidly to exploit the open seas. In an astonishingly short time, they developed streamlined bodies, powerful tails, and paddle-like limbs. Evolution did not experiment cautiously, it rushed. Speed, size, and killing efficiency were rewarded immediately. Different reptilian giants dominated different niches. Some evolved fish-like bodies built for endurance and pursuit, capable of crossing entire oceans. Others became ambush predators with massive heads, short necks, and crushing jaws designed to overpower large prey in a single strike. Long-necked forms hunted smaller animals, striking with precision in crowded marine environments. Together, they formed a complete predatory hierarchy that filled every possible role in the ocean. What made these reptiles truly terrifying was their size. Many exceeded 10 meters in length, dwarfing most modern marine predators. Their skulls were reinforced, their muscles immense, and their bites devastating. Fossilized stomach contents revealed diets that included fish, squid, other reptiles, and even members of their own species. This was an era where being large was not enough, you had to be dominant. These reptiles reshaped ocean ecosystems for over 180 million years. They controlled prey populations, dictated migration patterns, and forced constant evolutionary adaptation. Fish evolved speed. Cephalopods developed jet propulsion and intelligence. Survival required innovation, not stability. The oceans became dynamic, aggressive, and unpredictable. The dominance of marine reptiles also proves a crucial lesson in Earth's history. Mass extinction does not end life, it resets power. When old rulers fall, new ones rise quickly and violently. During the Mesozoic era, the seas were no longer ruled by fish or arthropods. They belonged to reptilian giants, creatures so successful that nothing challenged them until another global catastrophe arrived. Near the end of the age of marine reptiles, one group rose above all others in speed, aggression, and dominance: the mosasaurs. These creatures did not slowly inherit control of the oceans, they seized it. Appearing roughly 98 million years ago, mosasaurs rapidly became the most feared predators in the seas, turning the late Cretaceous oceans into hostile, predator-dominated environments. What makes mosasaurs especially remarkable is their origin. They were not ancient sea reptiles refined over hundreds of millions of years. They descended from land-dwelling lizards that returned to the ocean and evolved at an astonishing pace. In a relatively short geological window, their bodies transformed into near-perfect killing machines, streamlined, muscular, and built for explosive movement. Their jaws were their greatest weapon. Mosasaurs possessed highly flexible skulls with multiple hinge points, allowing them to open their mouths extraordinarily wide. This flexibility enabled them to swallow large prey whole, including fish, seabirds, turtles, and even other marine predators. Some species had conical teeth for gripping slippery prey, while others had thick, crushing teeth designed to break shells and bone. Fossil evidence reveals a brutal reality of mosasaur life. Bite marks on other mosasaurs, sharks, and large fish show that they attacked almost anything they encountered. Cannibalism was common, indicating extreme competition even among their own kind. In these oceans, dominance was never secure. Every hunt carried risk, and every rival was a potential threat. Mosasaurs were also fast. Their powerful tails ended in a shark-like fluke, allowing sudden bursts of speed for ambush attacks. Unlike earlier reptiles that relied on endurance, mosasaurs specialized in short, violent encounters. Prey often had no warning, just impact, crushing jaws, and silence. By the final millions of years before the asteroid impact, mosasaurs were uncontested rulers of the oceans. They controlled food chains across the globe, from shallow seas to open waters. Their sudden extinction at the end of the Cretaceous was not due to decline or failure, but to a planetary disaster that wiped out nearly all large marine predators at once. Mosasaurs represent the peak of reptilian domination at sea. They were not transitional animals or evolutionary experiments, they were perfected predators, and their disappearance left a void that would soon be filled by an entirely different kind of ocean giant. After the dinosaurs and their marine counterparts vanished, the oceans entered a new era dominated by mammals. Among the most extraordinary of these early marine mammals was Basilosaurus, a predator so formidable that it rewrote what it meant to be an apex hunter. Living during the late Eocene, roughly 41 to 34 million years ago, Basilosaurus was a fully aquatic whale, but it retained surprising traits from its terrestrial ancestors, turning it into a lethal combination of power, agility, and aggression. Unlike modern whales, Basilosaurus was long and serpentine, measuring up to 18 meters in length. Its body was designed for stealth and speed, able to ambush prey with sudden bursts of motion. Its jaws were filled with sharp, conical teeth, capable of tearing through large fish and even smaller whales. Unlike the gentle, filter-feeding giants we see today, Basilosaurus was a true predator, ruling the oceans with lethal precision. Its anatomy reflected both evolutionary innovation and ancient heritage. Tiny, vestigial hind limbs remained, remnants of its land-dwelling past. Though useless for walking, they may have played a role in mating or maneuvering in water. This combination of primitive traits and advanced hunting adaptations made Basilosaurus uniquely equipped for dominance. Fossil evidence paints a brutal picture of its diet and behavior. Bite marks on smaller whales and large fish show that Basilosaurus did not hesitate to attack formidable prey. Its long, flexible body allowed it to coil around or ambush victims, striking quickly and efficiently. In many ways, it was a modern echo of the mosasaurs and pliosaurs that had dominated earlier seas, but powered by mammalian endurance, intelligence, and warmth. The rise of Basilosaurus illustrates a crucial turning point in ocean history. Mammals, once land-bound and small, were now reclaiming the apex predator role in the oceans. This shift would eventually lead to the emergence of modern predatory whales, including orcas, and set the stage for new marine ecosystems. In the post-dinosaur seas, evolution had once again reset the rules, proving that dominance is never permanent and that the oceans always favor the bold, the fast, and the deadly.